Let's talk about the other big story now. Devon Archer's transcribed interview with the House Oversight Committee was just released today, and for the very first time, the American public can read for themselves what Hunter Biden's former business associate told lawmakers.
Yeah, at the very least, Archer's testimony certainly calls into question previous statements by President Biden and also the White House that Joe Biden was never in business or discussed business with his son. Chief White House correspondent James Rosen has more details on what exactly the transcript reveals. James, good afternoon.
John and Bianca, good afternoon to you. To peruse the 141 pages of the Devon Archer interview transcript is akin to reading scripture in that all parties can cite passages in it to suit their point of view. Archer spent 5 hours being interrogated on Monday by staff and a few members of the Oversight Committee. Among other things, he testified Monday that Burisma, the Ukrainian company that hired Hunter Biden, sought and received from him an effort at tapping into his father's influence. The question was posed by Representative Jim Jordan, Republican of Ohio, who said the request from Burisma was help from the United States government to deal with the pressure they were facing from their prosecutor, and that entailed the freezing of assets at the London bank and other things that were going on in Ukraine. Devon Archer replied, correct. Hunter was a lobbyist and an expert, and obviously he carried, a very powerful name, so I think that's what they were looking or asking for. Then James Mandolfo, the committee's GOP general counsel, asked, what did Hunter Biden do after he was given that request from Burisma? Archer answered, listen, I did not hear this phone call, but he called his dad. At another point, Archer's attorney, Matthew Schwartz, interrupted Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman, complaining that the questioning by Goldman, a former prosecutor under Robert Mueller, was not framed properly. So Schwartz reframed the question for Goldman and posed it directly to his client. Quote, from Matthew Schwartz, Devon Archer's attorney, is it still true that you're not aware that Hunter Biden ever discussed policy with his father, discussed business with his father, influenced American policy for purposes of his business, or otherwise caused the vice president or asked the vice president to do anything improper, right? Archer replied, that's my understanding. Archer is soon to serve time for his conviction in a separate fraud case involving the issuance of Native American tribal bonds, and in which case Archer's legal team at one point asked to call both Bidens as witnesses. John.
James Rosen, referencing scripture in regards to the Archer testimony. That's why we love you, James. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, joining us now, State Chair of the Delaware Republican Party, Julianne Murray. Good to see you, Julianne. Thanks for giving us some time today to talk about this Devon Archer transcript.
Hey, Julianne.
Happy to be here. Greetings to both of you.
Thank you.
So, now that we're able to read it, and it's more than just talking about the weather, clearly, some of the misrepresentations that we saw here from Dan Goldman, he testified about the Biden brand. So clearly, it definitely refutes President Biden's claims multiple times on camera that he knew nothing about his son's foreign business dealings. That's the minimum here. But what do you read from what he's told Congress on Monday?
Well, and a couple of things, and 141 pages. Did my best to skim it, as you can imagine. But there were a couple of things. One is absolutely refutes that that absolutely Biden was talking to his son and knew what was going on. And and I agree that there are things in here, what James Rosen said in terms of there are things that people can carve out. But in this case, it's, Joe Biden knew what was going on. And the fact that they're, testifying, or he's testifying about the Biden brand, everybody knows what that is. What I think is interesting from reviewing it is he refers at one point to Eric Schwerin, who Hunter Biden referred to in his plea hearing last week when he was under oath as one of his business partners. So one of the things I said last week was that it's going to be interesting because Hunter was under oath and was testifying about business partners, how everything kind of ties back in. And I think that people are going to go through the transcript and have already gone through Hunter's transcript from last week. They're going to compare it to Devon Archer's, and it may give additional paths that the Congressional Oversight Committee, there could be additional questioning because it's clear that these roads do intersect. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a lot of reading with the Trump indictment and now this Archer testimony. And on your point, so Devon Archer testified that Burisma execs asked Hunter to make a phone call to D.C. to address, quote unquote, pressure from the company that was facing from Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin. Congressman Jordan pressed Archer about it. saying, what did Hunter do after he was given that request? Archer then said, I did not hear this phone call, but he called his dad. So this is really playing into what Republicans are saying. I mean, is it the smoking gun, or is it certainly leading leading to that smoking gun having to do with more evidence in the case proving the allegations of bribery and corruption?
It's leading to it that, when it says, I did not hear the phone call, but he called his dad. I mean, that is, so is it, is that strong enough? And it's, those are the kinds of things where you can see where it might cut both ways. Lots of smoke here. And I think that, but remember, if this ever got to what we would call a criminal trial, that's the beyond a reasonable doubt. And with something like, I didn't hear the phone call, but I know that he called his dad, a defense attorney could have a heyday with that. Right. So, as a lawyer, I'd like it a little stronger, but does it absolutely, suggest that, what we all thought? Absolutely.
And you were in the courtroom with Hunter Biden last week, his attorneys, when the plea agreement broke down. Now the plea agreement, the revised version, is being made public as well. I want to get your take on this. These documents that have been provided now detail the accounts of the cases surrounding criminal charges against Hunter. The deal was, supposedly he was going to walk in, just get those 2 misdemeanors, but it really was sort of the separate gun charge, which kind of had the broad immunity, as you know, slipped in there, tucked in there. So now they've put that out there, they've taken that out. But a lot of folks are saying, Julianne, like, we don't think that they're even going to go after him for FAR or for other things. So where do you think the plea agreement goes? How do you think they're closer to getting this done? And if so, what are the optics of that?
A great question. And, and when the plea was actually released, I was thankful because I had taken notes, but, shorthand is only so good. So to have the time to really read it, I was definitely left in the courtroom with, wow, there's a whole lot here. So I'm actually glad that it's out. One of the things that the judge did was she was very clear about what the statute of limitations, that it's going to run in October of 2023. I think that that's important. That's going, that timeline is actually what's going to kind of dictate what happens here. I've heard people say this puts pressure on the Department of Justice. Whether they actually pay attention to that pressure or not is a whole nother thing. But I think that, David Weiss is going to be receiving pressure. I know people are saying he's going to be back in court on August 25th.
Well, David Weiss is, I don't mean to cut you off. We were almost out of time, but David Weiss is supposed to come in and talk to Congress too. So yeah, the pressure is, this is far from over there with what he has said on the record.
Well, I'm taking notes on what you're saying, so I'm writing down everything.
Important date.
Great points.
Today's a big day too for Donald Trump, as you know. Julianne, appreciate your time today. We'll have you back here real soon. Okay.
Thanks, Julianne.
Thank you so much. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
You too.